Hello and welcome to Final Fights. I am Mark Hoffmeyer, and joining me is a woman who just popped in from a random portal. It's Megan Hoffmeyer.
Hello.
You're really loving this convergence.
Yeah, I mean, I can get so many different worlds and realms in just a short period of time. I mean, I never know, bad side effect, never know where I'm going to pop up. Because
Really?
It's very random right now.
So you're going full synchronic on this.
Yeah, I mean, it's all over the place.
I mean, it only happens once every, billions of years?
Yeah, it's quite a long time between them, but...
You might as well live it up.
I gotta see the 9 realms. I could go to Vanaheim,
Is
Jotunheim.
Is Christopher Eccleston chasing you?
Ooh, no. This is purely for fun.
All right, so I brought you in here, Meg, because right now on Movie Songs and Flicks, we're doing a thing called Dark Month. So we're talking about all movies with dark in the title. And that's why we're doing a fight from Thor, The Dark World. And
Makes
today,
sense.
we're going to be talking about the Battle of Greenwich that takes place between Malekith, played by Christopher Eccleston, who does not like playing this role.
Doesn't look anything like the guy.
Does not look, and he was mad. Then we have Thor, played by Chris Hemsworth. Then we have Jane Foster running around playing a Game Boy, turning knobs.
With very fabulous, long, flowing hair.
And wellies.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah, wellies. The whole movie she wears those wellies.
I like it when she's walking through the library of the old Royal Naval College.
Squish, squish, squish.
And they kept it in.
Listen, that's a real thing. I love to wear my wellies, too, and they make a lot of noise.
The squish is real.
They're not silent.
And then you have Erik Selvig and his scientific instruments.
Yes.
That they're setting up a grid, which can mess up the patterns. And according to Jane Foster, what she says, the walls between worlds will be almost non-existent. Physics is going to be ballistic. Increase and decrease in gravity, spatial extrusions, the very fabric of reality is going to be torn apart.
Wow.
And that whole thing, it leads to some pretty good gags.
Yeah, well, and they say that they turn these devices of Selvig's into teleportation devices.
And what I like the most is when Darcy, played by Kat Dennings, and Ian, played by Jonathan Howard, have a great smooching moment, and they get transported right in front of them.
Yeah, that's a really fun one, where they think they can sort of pinpoint the people. They get really excited because Jane Foster and Erik Selvig are controlling these devices, and they think that they can all of a sudden pinpoint some of the elves and take them out of the game, but then they go a little bit too far, and Darcy and Ian end up somewhere else, and...
Yeah, then Ian saves Darcy, and then they smooch. And then she sees the hammer, and she calls it Mew Mew, which I love. This fight... So I was looking through this. You know, Alan Taylor directed this movie. He got this after directing Game of Thrones. He was a hot commodity. Then he went on to do Terminator Genesis. But he got this movie. Patty Jenkins was supposed to direct it. She dropped out. And, you know, there's 9 credited writers with stories. But Chris Yost, Chris Marcos, and then Stephen McFeely wrote it. And I was doing some research, and for this fight, the first episode ever of Final Fights was The Night Comes for Us. Mm-hmm. And that's one of the greatest final fights in the last...
It's amazing.
Since the last time the Convergence happened.
One of my top 5, for sure.
It's beautiful. You have a jaguar and a bull. What's Joe Taslim?
A brick shithouse? I don't know. He's just wrecking stuff.
He's one of those frost giant lizards that they sucked into the world.
Playing with the birds in the post-credits.
Yeah, exactly. So that's Joe Taslim. But this one, there's really not that many punches thrown. And I was looking at this. Ben Cook, the fight coordinator on this movie, he went on to do Mulan, 1917.
The new Mulan?
Yeah. He did Mandy, which is one of my favorite films. The fight scenes are incredible. And then he Assassin... They are! There's a chainsaw fight. And he fights 3 Cenobites in a house. And it's brutal and beautiful and wonderful and gory and bloody. And there's a lot of mud and blood and beer. Then he also did Assassin's Creed, Huntsman, Jupiter Ascending. When you work with the Wachowskis, that means you're a legit stunt person, because they love stunt people. He did Fury. Mm-hmm. Then he also was Jason Statham's stunt double. And he was Daniel Craig's stunt double on the Bond films. He was Hercules' stunt double. He was on the Lord of the Rings movies. And he was a fight coordinator on the Kingdom of the Crystal Skull.
Wow. That's quite the firepower for someone who doesn't end up doing much coordinating in this movie.
Yeah, Ben Cook. So listen, it's a fun final fight.
It's different for sure. I mean, it's very, intergalactic and zipping through portals, and there's trains and subways involved.
So we're having a conversation with some people who love the comics, and they're very rational. They're not angry about MCU movies. We had a great talk, and what they said about what they liked about Thor: The Dark World is that this movie takes place off planet. A lot of it does take place off planet. We get to Asgard. We go to Malekith's old planet, which is Way too many words for me to pronounce.
A lot of consonants near each other. Hard to pronounce.
Wonderful name. But this has a completely different feel than most of the movies that came before it, which I like. There is something different. But this final fight, Ben Cook must have been there kind of twiddling his thumbs, because this fight reminded me a lot of the final fight in Jumper, where Jamie Bell and Hayden Christensen...
they're zipping all over the place. They're not really trading blows a lot.
Exactly. They're chasing each other. They're throwing, like, they're in war zones, all these different places where they're jumping, which is really interesting. And it's a good concept, but there's only about 3 or 4 punches landed in this thing. And it's a lot of Thor jumping.
And even when Malekith's arms get, severed from his body, it's through the portal. It's not really because Thor broke it off with his hands.
Imagine that. You're just eating dinner and Malekith's arm lands on your table.
It's pretty brutal. I mean, imagine a frost beast just comes through. Or the part when they're over, St. Peter's in London, and the cars are just dropping through above the dome.
It's raining cars.
Yeah, that's terrible.
And then they also smack on the shard, too. That's a good sight gag when they both fall. But the problem is, I love Eccleston. He's my favorite Doctor. Number 10?
Yeah.
10. 10's the best.
9.
9. 9's the best. Ooh, that's a bad look. 9's the best. Just this time, everybody lives. But I love how, I was so excited to hear that Eccleston was going to be in the MCU, was going to be in Marvel. And then you see this role, and it's just not what you're expecting. And so the final fight, I think it lacks the gravitas of, say, Ant-Man.
So, you know what it made me think of? You've been doing a lot of research for Battlefield Earth. And in that, they talked about how when they were trying hair and makeup for John Travolta, they realized that no matter what the wigs were and the makeup, they couldn't really obscure his face because it was very much about, you're here to see John Travolta. I get the feeling watching this again recently after seeing that commentary that Eccleston probably felt the same way. I don't know that a lot of wide audiences would recognize him and go, oh yeah, that guy, I'm here for that guy. But he probably feels that way as an actor. He would want to be seen, and it takes a lot away from his acting to be so covered. He's unrecognizable. Yeah.
And he complained about that a lot. And he's not happy with his participation in this. But I guess, all that aside, this final fight, well, what are some good parts about it? One of my favorite parts is when Eccleston supposedly gets popped, or Malekith gets popped through a portal. Hey, and Thor comes running after him, but he pops out the portal and pops Thor right in the face. There's a lot of popping going on in it. Yeah, pop. And it's, what's his name in Community? Pop. Oh gosh. I just put you on the spot there.
Yeah.
I put you on the spot
and
about
I feel like I remembered it.
Upgrade. No, that's not Upgrade.
No, it's
That's a great movie, by the way. Upgrade is a fantastic film with a very good kitchen fight.
Something with an M. Wow. No, I feel like I remembered it until you asked me, and then it just went away.
And then I saw it leave your head.
Yeah. It just went out the window.
But I do like that scene because it's something new, and it features actual fist to head in this one. And then Thor, Malekith he gets the ether, and then he just shoots the ether out of him. And I just did a shoot mode.
Yeah, with your chest.
And you get this ether
But that's
exploding.
pretty on point, though. That's what he does.
So like, hey, Eccleston, when you're on set, just kind of pop your chest out. and we'll have ether fly from it. And then Thor will slide under it. He'll jump over it. Once again. Magnitude. Yes. Thor jumps a lot in this final fight. A lot. Jumps up with his hammer, smacks the ground, things go up. Then he jumps up and again hits him. There's 6 different jumps in this fight. Oof. He's always up there. On top of the portal jumping. And it's fine. It's different, right? It's not... We talk about CGI smack-em-ups, Megan. How they get...
What's a smack-em-up?
I don't know what a CGI smack-em-up is.
That was a good one.
All right, so we talk about CGI Slugfest. We talk about CGI Slugfest, and this one largely stays away from that because they never keep on one thing for too long.
No, they're trying to evade each other the whole time.
Yeah, and they're just sort of running through portals, and then there's the occasional sight gag. But then you have Selvig, you have Ian. They
are trying to do service to a lot of characters here, to be fair.
Yeah, they're juggling a lot. And I'm just happy Skarsgård put on pants.
Well, and you have the Royal Air Force at one time trying to intervene.
And then you have the students at the academy, or the college.
And then there's also they're trying to pepper a little bit of humor throughout it, too. So they're doing that at the same time. It's just a lot happening.
Okay, this is going to sound weird, but do you think... So there's a scene where where Thor, what are my words today? Where Thor gets popped away and he ends up taking the train.
Oh, I love this part.
The reaction's great. He's like, where's Greenwich? It's 3 stops away. The lady's hand goes on his chest. But the trains are still running during this battle. which has destroyed many things. I think the trains would probably stop at this time, right? Or would they they wouldn't be taking people to Greenwich.
I'd assume so, but maybe, so at this point, it's 2 years past the Avengers incident in New York, maybe they haven't really felt the brunt of we haven't gotten to the level of Sokovia yet, which happens in Ultron. I don't know what the timeline, how many years from now it is, but maybe this hasn't reached sort of a national level. I don't think at this time there were massive terror attacks happening over there in our world. So maybe there was just utter confusion. Aliens, no one knows what's happening.
Yeah. Maybe I thought you were going to lean towards they're just used to it, so they don't care anymore.
I think they're not used to it yet, so they're going, what? Yeah, what's this giant spaceship T-bone thing?
Why's Christopher Eccleston here?
Where's the rest of my steak?
Is this a bit? But is this a play? Is this Shakespeare in the Park?
Ooh.
You know what else I found out? Elsa Pataki.
Oh.
Chris Hemsworth's wife.
Mm-hmm.
She did some doubling in this one for Portman.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah. She gets her wellies on. She runs around.
Really? Oh. I was going to say that explains. She kind of has that color hair that she has in this movie.
I mean, she's probably hanging out. They needed somebody in there. I know she doubles for
she's very athletic. She could run.
I do think, though, this final fight, you have Natalie Portman, who is an Oscar-winning actress.
Mm-hmm.
And you just have her running around with a Game Boy turning knobs. Now...
More like a drone controller.
Yeah.
Just all these panels and knobs, twisting things.
And it gives her character something to do. You have this world ending with the ether. All Malekith wants is the ether. And to quote someone from Empire years ago, I don't remember who said it, I need the ether, give me the ether, I want the ether, I got the ether, I'm dead. So he wants the ether, he has it, and you just have her and Erik running around very slowly,
mm-hmm.
being chased by very slow Dark Elves. And they're just sort of turning knobs around. And I get that
they're moving stakes, too.
Yeah, they're moving stakes.
Devices.
You want to give them something to do, but it's a weird combination of world ending and humor. There's weird bits, and then there's humor. It's a weird...
Yeah, and it's also a weird combination of Thor and Malekith are popping between worlds. They are traveling quite a lot during this. Then Mjolnir goes out of Earth's atmosphere into space and comes back, and it's whipping around the globe. But then you've got this other half of the crew that's staying within a very focused footprint of a college. They don't move very far for this whole fight. So it's that's an interesting dynamic too happening.
Yeah, they're flying all over the place. But I like Thor a lot, and I think Taika Waititi finally figured him out in Thor Ragnarok. But this one, I think I was excited just because it was Eccleston as Malekith.
Mm-hmm.
And so watching them fly around the portals, and listen, when you're watching an MCU fight, the last thing you should think about is the movie Jumper. And that's the first thing that came to my mind.
I mean, but now that you say it, it makes so much sense, and I bet I would think that every time.
It's because Jumper's good. Listen to the episode that Norbert and I recorded.
Jumper is excellent, but they really are sort of doing that. I mean, there aren't portals in Jumper, but they are really going from space to space very quickly, trying to follow, chase, fight.
Mm-hmm. And as a final fight, though, in the Thor world, I guess, right, so in the first Thor, he lost his powers. And so he had to battle the Destroyer.
Mm-hmm.
And then all the people tried to help him. Then he got his power back and he destroyed the Destroyer. Hey.
Oh.
So then you have that. And then the first Iron Man, it's CGI Tony versus CGI Jeff Bridges. In Hulk, it's CGI Norton versus CGI Tim Roth. And then you have Avengers, which is the Avengers. That's a good fight.
Mm-hmm.
But all the villains in that aren't too good. Loki's fine. So I guess they're really trying something different. You had portals in Avengers, so it makes sense that there's more portals for this one.
True.
So on paper, this is a good idea. And I like the idea of Malekith blob stretching out across the world. They actually did this in Guardians 2.
Blob.
Remember in Guardians 2 when Kurt Russell, Ego, planted stuff on all those planets and it was just blowing it up?
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of the same thing because it was reaching out to different planets and just wiping them out.
Well, and this also gave me reminders of, because I haven't watched this in quite a while until we decided we were doing this final fight. It reminded me a lot of what we get later on in Doctor Strange with their portals that they're creating with their own sort of mind magic, which is very different from the Convergence, but it still had, that sort of look to it, which you then see again at the end of Endgame when all the portals open up with the Sorcerer